just being authentic. It just took me a long time to get there. Just being me. It took me a while to accept that people would like this girl, and so that honestly, if you can overcome that, you probably will be successful.
Welcome to the Passion Behind the Art show. It's all about diving in with individuals to learn the story behind their passion. It's your host, Daryl Penn.
What's up? Guess what? It's another week, another amazing guest, and another opportunity for me to bring you value through someone else's story. But before we jump into this week's episode, I just want to let you know that our Patreon page is up and running, finally. And if you're not familiar with Patreon, it's basically a way to support a specific endeavor that you're interested in. And of course, the endeavor that we're talking about right now is Passion Behind the Art, the podcast. So I'd really appreciate it if you would support the podcast through our Patreon page. All you need to do is just go to passionbehindtheart.com and look for the Patreon tab, and it will take you directly to the page. This would mean the world to me and everything that I'm doing in regards to the podcast. A large percentage of what I do in regards to the podcast, as a matter of fact, all of it is free. And I would really appreciate you if you could just help support the podcast with as low as $2. Nothing too crazy, $2. And of course, there's various tiers you can support with more. And the more you support, the more incentives you get. So just go to passionbehindtheart.com and check out our Patreon page. This would help me out a lot. There will also be a link in the show notes. So without further ado, let's jump into this week's episode. Well, I am beyond excited to have Jackie Horbrook on the Passion Behind the Art show. Jackie, welcome.
Thank you. I'm welcome. I feel welcome. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. All right. So let's jump right into this. I would love to know, how did this journey start for you? Did you know from a little girl that you wanted to be an educator? Like, how did this, like, from the beginning, as far as you can go back?
Let me see. I don't even know how far it's been. I don't know. For me, I've always been a leader, and I think educators are leaders, and most likely people who probably don't even know how much of a leader they are. And so I've always been involved and wanted to change things and help people. Maybe back to the 6th grade when I started running for the student council, it was something that I really kind of loved doing. I was like the only girl who kind of ran for a student council, and I didn't win, but I realized that I wanted to be someone who affected people and helped to change things. And so I guess from the 6th grade on, I've been trying to really intentionally do that. So that's kind of where I got my start from.
Okay. 6th grade, student council. That's pretty cool. So after 6th grade, student council, like, what are some of the other, like, events to kind of, like, some of the clues that you went through or you experienced to say, okay, this is the kind of the path that I want to go down after 6th grade?
Well, after 6th grade, I think there was some points where I did public speaking. I was on the speech team, and I did like debate, and just getting around people that were different than me, I think really opened my eyes to how big the world was. I think sometimes growing up, you think the world is so like small because you're small and, you're just not exposed to a lot. But, I was on the speech team, and we traveled all over to different high schools that had jacuzzis in their places. And, they were big time high schools, and I was just like wowed by it. And, I learned how to carry myself differently. I learned how to just speak, to people and introduce myself. And so speech really taught me a lot about people and how you can interact differently and how people respond to you in positive ways when you present yourself. And so that's kind of what I think afterwards kind of pivoted me into this whole educating piece, right? The public speaking, the being able to depict who you are and what you're about very clearly. That's something that was kind of built into me at a young age. And going from there, college, I was able to go to a university and study business and marketing. Initially, it was theater that I wanted to do, ironically enough, musical theater. And musical theater was not like where it was for me at that point. I realized like I can't make a huge living right away on that, so that's not for me. So I changed to business, and I think it was something in me that always liked that. And after business, I really knew that that was a part of what I needed to do with my life. But I didn't know the full picture. Honestly, it just started to slowly unravel throughout my adulthood. From there, you know, I really got a piece of education from working with my business degree at a institute that was like test preparation. And I was like, man, I love teaching. I love the idea of helping people learn and get to their life goals. And so after that, I went into education. I went into DePaul, where I learned about counseling and college student development. You know, and so college student development was where I really was like, oh my gosh, I know I want to be a person who helps others affect people, and just be basically someone who can encourage, inspire, educate them on how to do that effectively, right? And so all of these things started to compound in my life: the marketing, the speaking, the counseling, even to talk to people, and then the educating with going for college student development. It just started to roll together. And even the diversity role, one of my first jobs out of being in my master's program was the director of diversity at a university. And it really was amazing because I learned so much about different nationalities and just the reason why it's so important for people to be validated within their own community. It helps them to have some self-esteem and motivation about themselves, and it's needed. And so honestly, that was even incorporated into who I am today. So all that long story short.
Cool. So I'm a little bit intrigued. Let's go back a little. Like, what was it that attracted you to theater?
That's funny. So theater was interesting because I was in high school. I did theater and speech. You kind of have to do the whole shebang, speech, theater. I was Sandy in Greece, ironically enough. We were an all-black school, so everybody, it was a Greece, Black Lightning in Greece, for real. So it was funny because I was the shyest person in the theater program. And so my theater coach was like, you would be perfect for Sandy. That's you. He was like, just be yourself. And honestly, that's what happened. And at the end, I became Sandra D, this, person who was just kind of like out there. And, honestly, that was kind of pivoted me into like, wow, I'm shy, but I can still be like, create things and be different and show people my personality, even though I'm an introvert. And so honestly, that's where acting came from. And I loved it in high school, got to college, and it wasn't as fun for me. Okay. And that's where I kind of pivoted from there. I'm like, it's not the same, but I would love to do it again someday.
Okay. Nice. So let's fast forward a little bit. I just want to see if you can remember your first, like you would say, speaking engagement, and like how did you prepare for that?
Okay, speaking engagement. Okay, are we talking about in my adult life or in my life? Okay, my adult life or speaking engagement. Okay, so my dad is a pastor, and I had to preach a sermon before I got ordained, and the sermon was in Jamaica. Tell me how I got to Jamaica as my first speaking trip. I don't know. I was on a missions trip, and the pastor there recognized that I was a good speaker, and he asked me like, hey, I want you to speak on Sunday service. And they have a very large church and congregation, and I'm like, speak, and he says, yeah. And so here I am in Jamaica. I have my Bible, and I'm sitting in this hot enclosed porch because there was no AC, and I'm sweating bullets preparing my first sermon. There was no signal, so I couldn't really call for help or phone a friend. I just kind of had to really put it all together myself, and it was just it was very interesting because I really wanted to talk to somebody. I'm a researcher,
Mm-hmm.
and so I like to know what I'm getting into. Like, what should this say? How should this feel? And
Right.
I didn't have none of that. And I believe God is intentional to kind of get you in those places. But, you know, I prepared it. I had my Bible, and I remember writing out these long sentences full of what I was going to say. And when I got up there, honestly, I didn't use
none of it. Oh my goodness.
None of it, man. It was like out the window.
Oh, that's cool.
It was good, though. It was great. I feel like God, you know, had his way, and he taught me a lesson that what you prepare does not mean what I'll use. So go ahead and prepare, though. Still prepare.
Right. Very important. Very important. Wow, that is so, like, I didn't expect that. I didn't know you were gonna go there. That's pretty cool. That's actually where I was born, in Jamaica.
Oh, really?
Yes, that is where I was born. So it was it's just funny that that's where it went. I did not expect that at all. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool to be the first place that you, like, you know, you would quote unquote say you spoke at. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Absolutely.
Very interesting. All right, so let's go a little bit further. Like, you have this organization that you started and you run. It's the Black Christian Influencers. If I have it right. Yes, I do. Let's talk a little bit about that. How did that vision come to being? Like, let's unpack that a little.
Yeah, honestly, I have a show called Higher Learning that's on YouTube, and I started that because I am a complete nerd at heart. I'm learning how to covert it, you know, tease it up a little bit, you know, dress a little hip. But I wanted to appeal to people who were like me. I wanted to have real conversations within the church that nobody wants to talk about. And I wanted to find that audience. And so when I was trying to find my audience, I remember I really wish I could find this sheet of paper, but it was a sheet of paper where I was like, okay, what is my target audience? And I was like, okay, it's probably Black. It's probably people that are Christian. And then I was like, and it's leaders, people who are, you know, influential. And so it was Black Christian leaders at one point. And then I'm like, leaders, no. And then for some reason, I kind of crossed out it and I said influencers, because I'm like, I want them to know that it's not just people who are in front, but people who are serving that's doing it very well and people look up to them. So, you know, Black Christian Influencers was on a sheet of paper, and I wanted to kind of connect with other people like me. I started a small Facebook group of people that I thought were influencers that fit that demographic, and the group was titled Black Christian Influencers. Okay. Just because that's what we were, and I wanted us to connect. And from there, I just saw many people started to join it, people that I knew, and then people invited their friends. And after a while, I'm like, man, there's some dope people in this group. I wish everybody knew about these people, you know. And then I created the Instagram page off a whim. Like, it doesn't take me to start something up. So I just created the page and started sharing the people. And next thing you know, it literally organically grew into what it is now with Black Christian Influencers, and now a whole community of people that are just sharing and connecting. Oh,
that's cool. That is so cool. So what is the goal of other from attracting various influencers? What are some of the goals of Black Christian Influencers?
For me, it's just really building a community that can intentionally connect and use each other for support, as well as just soliciting. We have so many people that are amongst each other that can help and benefit from each other. You know, stylists and artists who maybe need to connect, you know, doctors who maybe need help with publicity, you know, public speakers that need help with people who are already public speakers, or maybe, you know, a teacher who wants a public speaker to come. To me, I just saw this whole thing in my mind, like, man, if we all were together, we would organically start using each other. And it's been happening. Honestly, I had received a testimony from somebody today who told me about a relationship that was connected with one of our groups that we created within BCI. And now they are doing some phenomenal things together. They're being flown out to be utilized with each other. And I started to cry because I'm like, wow, God, like, this is what in my head I wished would happen from it. And to kind of hear it happen, like, it's for real happening, God, like, seriously, it's working. You know, it kind of blew my mind because, you know, you think things are simple, like, man, that would be a simple fix. And this is just one, honestly, that is a simple fix. It wasn't me. It's just honestly putting people together and they're naturally using each other. And it's doing it. That was the goal.
Okay, cool. So how, like, say someone hears this, like, how can someone get involved with something like this? They feel like they're an influencer. How do they get involved?
Well, it's an invite-only community, but we definitely accept applications where we kind of review them. We're Christians, and so we're not going to be snotty and say, oh, you're not in this group. No, I honestly take the time to share with people like, hey, I think your page is great. I think you got some good things going. Here's some things you can do to really improve that, and hopefully you can be a person who we feature and really use as well. But again, we accept a lot of people into the community just so they can begin to grow from each other.
Nice.
That's what we do. It's an application, obviously, and we accept them through that and just give them tips on how they can become more influential. And so it's just that simple. The application's on the site, www.blackchristianinfluencers.com.
Okay, cool. All right, so just in case, like, what would you say was like the hardest struggle through this process? What would you say was, the hardest time or the hardest struggle that you went through this process?
Yeah, I think sometimes I feel like everybody should just be nice and get along. It's like, can we all just get along? But I've learned that there are spirits of competition. There are spirits of sabotage and even self-sabotage that are a part of it. And for me, realizing that it's not the person, it is the thing that's kind of like pulling on the inside that maybe they haven't dealt with. And I had to really understand that in order to really continue to go, because that hit me. I'm a nice person, and when people I feel take advantage of, it hurts, and that that hinders me. I can do a lot of things, but if I feel hurt, it affects how I interact, how I engage, how we grow as a group. But I think that was the hardest thing, overcoming people and what they're capable of. But, developing a thicker skin now has helped me, and just constantly staying in my special place where I can mentally get away, I think has been helping as well. So, honestly, outside of that, I haven't had struggles with growing and trying to push a product, because I believe when you got something good, it just catches. You don't have to do a whole lot to it. So that's not a problem. But, people can be funny sometimes.
All right, so it seems like you have the magic bullet. How do you develop a thick skin?
I don't have the magic. I make it appear as if I have the magic bullet. And I think that's maybe the strategy, make it appear as if you have thick skin, even though sometimes you don't. It's not being fake or phony, but you don't want to let people know that they're getting to you. And if you see it, call it out. Like for me, I'll call it out in a second. I call people and just say, hey, it felt like this is happening. Is this what's going on? Avoiding those misinterpretations and miscommunications, clearing them up right away before they develop in your mind or even other people's. That's the best way to do it for me. Like that counseling, that's where that comes in. Making sure you're constantly communicating with people. That's the best way to do it, honestly.
All right. So outside of going through the necessary practices, right? Like, what are some of the key tips on someone developing themselves as a counselor? Top three.
Learning to listen, which sounds cliche, but it's not, because a lot of people just listen to respond versus listening to comprehend. It's a difference. You don't prepare what you're going to say while they're talking. You're doing that, you're not listening.
Right.
Making sure you're actually listening and responding according to what they're saying is important. Just being open, honestly, that's another cliche kind of sounding one, but to give it more depth, don't be so held on to what you think is right. And this was hard for me as a counselor. Sometimes I thought I knew what people needed to do to fix themselves, but honestly, it might be right for me, but I'm not fixing me. If you're trying to help somebody else, they need to come to their own conclusions, because that's what's going to work for them. That will save you so much trouble if you realize that, because you can't fix people. People have to want to fix themselves, and
Facts.
they got to have to to figure out their own way of doing it. That's why counselors sometimes like, tell me what you think about that. Mm-hmm. It's because you have to come to your own conclusions, and they can't give it to you, or else it won't even work. That's 2. And then maybe 3, I would say just kind of, I don't know, have fun sometimes. I think as counselors, we aren't transparent enough. We don't show people that we are people. Right. And honestly, as an influencer, a lot of reason why it's taking off so much is because people are showing that they're people. You know, like, hey, I go to the bathroom like you. I go out to eat like you. You know,
it's facts. So it's true. It's true. It's true. It's true.
It's true. Needed. I think it's catapulted people who probably wouldn't be known for anything into something like, wow, you know how to really, you know, speak in a weird voice or do something that's really amazing. You know, you have these Instagram fame people because they do something unique that's you don't see every day. So I think that's it. Just show yourself that you're unique and you can be somebody who's different and a real person.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Especially with the listening. After doing over 100 episodes of podcasting, I have truly developed my listening skills.
I bet. You kind of have to, right?
Yes. So I'm there with you. I'm there with you on the listening. All right. So who would you say were some of the people that kind of held Jackie together? The people that you're in your, you know, your support circle. Who would you say those people are?
Definitely my sister. She's been huge. She's my younger sister, but, you know, she's a counselor as well, thank God, because there were times where I needed somebody who just could tell me, Jackie, shh, listen to what you're saying. You know, so I think my sister is one. My parents, who have been so influential in all of this. I can't tell you guys enough, like, how important it is to have a strong support system.
Facts.
Like, if I didn't have them, I couldn't do half the things I do, because I have 2 beautiful daughters that I depend on and they depend on me. And if I didn't have that, Jackie the Educator, Black Christian influencers wouldn't even be around, because they are needed to make this successful. So my parents, my sister, and honestly, God, of course, that's just everything to me. My children, family. So sum it all up. Family is people that I kind of really have been depending on and kind of really helped me.
That's what's up. That's awesome. Tell you that especially, you know, it's good when you can have like a sibling. It's just a different interaction when you have a sibling in your corner, because they have the balance of keeping it real with you, but at the same time, you know, they will go to bat for you no matter what. It's just that balance. You know, sometimes parents, you know, they get so, you know, so really like, you know, so nurturing, you know what I mean? But a sibling can be like, yo, you need to chill out. And you know, like, they'll keep it real with you.
Yo, I know something.
Yes. That is so true. That is so true. That is so true. All right. So there was a question that I asked you, that I sent to you. Like, what are some of the various ways that, and this is okay if you don't feel like sharing, it's cool, but what are some of the various ways that you generate revenue through all that you're doing?
Yeah, man, it's developing, obviously, Black Christian influencers, which is really cool because it's a membership program. It's a community. And instead of having like this large monthly large dues where you kind of have to pay $100 or some to be a part of it, we've just broken it up into monthly payments, which has been very amazing for me because I'm able to generate revenue and give people the things that they like, support them consistently, you know, and then, you know, also have a way to support my family as well. So that's been a huge portion of it. Awesome. Outside of that, I do ministry full time now. I'm helping my father with the church. We're actually building a new church. So I'm the project manager for that, which
nice.
Is, yeah, if you see any gray hairs, that's where it's coming from. Because running a construction project and just being a part of, you know, something that's being built from the ground up is stressful. Nice. So that is a full-time thing for me, dealing with contractors and architects and all types of cool people, electricians. It's great, but, you know, it's definitely a process. But we're writing grants because we're doing something even cooler, which is called a counseling cafe. We're building a space where people are going to be able to come, have cups of coffee, engage, as well as receive some counseling services from people who are trained to do so. So that's going to be another big one for me. So that's developing. learning the process of getting that together. But outside of that, BCI is what I do full time. So if you guys wonder, how does she keep all of this up? Well, it's full time. I don't have another job like some people. This is what I do. And Jackie, the educator, obviously, she does speaking engagements. I'm talking about she like she's somebody else.
Talking third person now.
I know, you can watch. You start talking in third person, and you gotta go speak up. I'm gonna go talk to my counselor.
Oh, that's too funny.
She's needed too, because she does some good speaking engagements with education side. So, all of those things are growing. Before this, I'm actually just new to this. I've only been not working full time with like a job from the other people who pay me, entrepreneur life. I've only been doing that for about 9 months. So before that, I was a director of diversity at a university, and, received a steady check the way normal people do, from a job that was really great for me. But, entrepreneur life is where it's at. It's different. You can make as much as you work. So I work all the time.
And I it's funny, and it's funny you say that, and I believe that if you feel like you have the chops for it, go for it. But caution to everyone, you're going to work more than you've worked at any job in your entire life.
Ever. I just told my family, or even my daughters, I said, just give me about a year. I'm about to work my butt off. I sometimes just go back to back to back, waking up earlier than you used to work, going to sleep later than you probably would, thinking about it, brainstorming all the time.
And that's working in itself.
It's easy, though, because you love what you're doing. So that's helpful. But entrepreneur life is no joke. I don't think I realized how hard it was.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, especially that mind. Sometimes your mind is just racing. Racing with the next move, ideas, just racing. Sometimes it's hard to sleep because of that.
Tell me about it.
Oh, my goodness.
I love the adrenaline that I get from it. Honestly, we're growing so quickly with BCI because I'm giving it 110%, everything that's happening. So it's going to be good, and it's great now, but so many great things to come. Awesome.
All right, so let's get to some fun stuff. What is the first hour of Jackie's day like?
The first hour, first I have to distinguish what that would be, because I go to sleep so late and then I wake up early. But usually it consists of me grabbing my phone and starting with a post. Just to be real, I should say prayer, but honestly, I got to get better with that. I do pray though throughout the day at some point, but I try to catch that first breath of anybody getting up. I want you to be the first person I see on the algorithms. Honestly, it's jacked up. But yeah, that's how my day starts off. And then obviously making breakfast for my girls. I do that, maybe throw something in my mouth occasionally. And then, moving on from there, working on the projects that I have, conference calls, going down to the church while taking calls, and, just collaborating. My days are full of collaborating, talking to people to see if it's worth collaborating with them.
Awesome.
So that's what it is. It starts with that, ends with that, and everything in between.
Cool. All right. So what's that product that's not your phone that you cannot live without?
Well, you said not my phone. Product.
It could be a product. It could be a thing. So let me give you an example. One person said his thing. One person said her heated blanket. Another person said his player, his record player. He has an old school record player. That's his thing to just kind of get him. That's the thing he can't live without. So it could be anything. It literally could be anything. One person said food. So,
Lord, I don't know if I have a thing.
Wow.
Because I don't think I have a thing. Outside of my phone, I'm not very materialistic. I don't have a lot of things that I get for myself.
Got you.
This is really, really bad. See, this is what my counselor was talking about. I should have a thing, right?
It varies. For me, it probably, as a designer and an artist, it's probably just my pen and pencil and paper. You know what I mean? That's my thing. Can't live without that. So, it just varies. But no pressure, girl. No pressure.
I ain't got no deep answer. I wish I did. Toilet tissue, does that count?
Say again?
The toilet tissue, does that count?
Hey, man, listen, I'm not here to judge you. If that's your thing, that's your thing.
I can't live without toilet tissue.
Facts.
Like, honestly, I thought about it.
Facts. All right. I think so far you've taken the cake on these various things. You've taken the cake. All right. So I know you're a well-learned woman. Book recommendations. What are some of your books that you would recommend?
I love Quiet. Quiet is a great book for leaders that are introverts. I think it's something that's necessary to read because it validates you so much in the fact that, yeah, I can do this, because I think we psych ourselves out sometimes to think like, man, I don't like people enough to really be out there and lead. Well, many great people did not like to be and talk to other people.
Ain't that the truth? That's like the craziest thing ever. Oh my goodness.
Never would have thought that until I really dug into that book, because I'm like, man, I like to be alone, God, and I just don't think I'm called to do some of the things you're saying. But reading that book opened my eyes to people who were like me, like, really, but that's honestly a book I would recommend for everybody to at least read in your lifetime. If you are an introvert, if you're not and want to understand introverts, that's a good one too, because it'll show you who they are and what they're made up of.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I'm definitely going to check that out. That's awesome. All right. So what's next? What's next for Jackie?
Jackie, I think she is, third person again. Let me stop. I think I am just going to continue to listen to God. BCI is doing some great things coming up. We just had a great shoot for another launch that's happening with us. So stay tuned. We're going to be doing some things more intentionally in cities to connect other Black Christian influencers. So ways that you can really be intentional on doing some in-person connecting.
Nice.
Like, we got to go outside of the internet. The internet is just going to be the start.
Yeah, the conduit.
Reach out. Yes, the conduit. I love using that word. But yes, it's the conduit to us really starting to meet people. So starting online and then branching out more where we can start to meet and interact in person is where we're going to go from here. So just look for some different ways of doing that. I love thinking outside the box. So don't put me in one because I'll jump right out.
Oh, love it. Love it. Love it. All right. So whoever's listening out there, it could be a lot of designers, a lot of creatives, a lot of people that are in the arts, musicians, you know what I mean, authors. What advice, and influencers, what advice would you have for them out there?
Yeah, I think for me, just being authentic, it just took me a long time to get there. Just being me. It took me a while to accept that people would like this girl, and so that, honestly, if you can overcome that, you probably will be successful, because there is a need for who you are, and you're different for a reason. That just sounds so cliche, gosh, but geez, it's real. It's all truth. Like, everything about you that's different is needed. And so honestly, I think doing that, figuring that out early, don't conform, don't make yourself what other people are doing just because you think it's what is cool and what's popular, but be you and you'll find yourself standing out and doing things that people haven't done before.
I love it. It's funny. A lot of times when people are building branding briefs, a lot of people, they always say, especially for personal brands, people always say like, you got to find your unique voice. You got to find, what makes you unique, or you do. But it's funny, like if people just focus on being themselves, like you automatically become unique.
Absolutely. Right. It's not that hard.
It's just that simple. Like when I work on like logo projects, like I would say to someone, like, tell me something about you, the owner, versus, what you would ideally want this business to be. And usually that's where I find the best design inspiration. You know what I mean? So it's crazy sometimes.
No, that's truth. That's all truth right there. I think we miss it, though. We make it too complicated.
Facts. So where can people go to find you, to learn more about you, all that you're doing?
Well, Black Christian Influencers is the page I manage, but Jackie the Educator, honestly, is where you can find me everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. It's Jackie the Educator. So that's where I'm at. That's where I be. Again, you can look me up anywhere. I have a website as well, JackieTheEducator.com, in case you want to know more about me. I have a podcast on there. You can check out some episodes.
Nice.
But Black Christian Influencers is where I've been spending most of my time lately. So if you want to see expressions of myself, go to the page and you'll probably see that as well.
Awesome. Jackie, this has been thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited about being a part of this amazing podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. I hope it's been super valuable to you, and you're now ready to take your audience building, your community growing to the next level to help you and help me build our empire, for lack of a better word, or just to build our thing. Remember to stop by iTunes, Passion Behind the Art, and leave a review and subscribe. It's very important to me. It helps the podcast grow, and it makes me feel good to kind of hear from you guys, to know what you like about this podcast, what it's done for you. So jump on iTunes and subscribe and leave a review. Passion Behind the Art. Be blessed.